Let me introduce to you a novelist, university lecturer, and former English teacher with a PhD in creative writing who wrote their third book, Wild East, a young adult novel written in verse and has just been published by Penguin Books in May 2024. Let me introduce to you Ashley Hickson-Lovence. Give it up.
Good morning, good morning. How are you doing? You good? When I say one, you say two. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. And we're going to go backwards because that energy was a bit low there, right? 10, 8, 6, 4, 2. Point to the ceiling. Point to the floor. Point to the window. Point to the door. Wind the bobbin up. Old school. Wind it back again. Good to see you all. Good to be here. Maureen and Coco bringing the vibes. This is your space this morning. Today, I want you to get the best out of it. Ask the questions that you need to ask. Be the person that you need to be throughout the course of the day. I'm going to be around all day. I'll be hosting the poetry session at 1 o'clock this afternoon as well. So please do get involved. This is your day. I'm going to be talking a little bit about my journey, my experiences, and my ambitions as a writer and an academic. I'm very passionate about the power of your voice, your experiences, your anecdotes. That's why the title of this talk is called When Life's Off Track, Put Pen to Paper and Find Your Way Back. It's actually the strapline of my latest book called Wild East. It's something I'm really passionate about. Your words, your voice, your anecdotes, your experiences, they really, really matter on the page. I'm not going to sort of spend too long on this, but Coco has said, I've published 3 books. In fact, when the first book came out in 2019, Pam from Pearson, who's one of the main organizers of this wonderful event today, got in contact with me and said, Ashley, I want you to come and speak at this conference. And it was all booked in, all planned, and then the pandemic struck. So this is a real honor. It's like it was meant to be. I'm a bit late, I'm a bit delayed, but I've made it here, and I'm delighted to talk to you today. Really, really delighted. Woo indeed, Pam. Absolutely. All right. So a little bit about my journey. This is why I'm so passionate about, sort of those experiences and why I want you to write and keep writing. On paper, the credentials my credentials on paper perhaps weren't the very best. I had a very, very young mum. My mum was just 17 when she fell pregnant with me. And she had big dreams, big ambitions of being a dancer, which were curtailed because of my arrival. We moved to Hackney in East London, a borough that was associated with sort of low-level crime. And, back in the day, right, before the days of Deliveroo and Uber Eats and all that stuff, right, we used to sort of order a takeaway from the shop itself. And they wouldn't come to my block, they wouldn't come to my estate. They thought they were going to get robbed, they thought they were going to get jacked. Mini cabs wouldn't come, so we had to walk to the main road to get a mini cab. And that's the sort of start that I had in life. That's why it's such an honor for me to be here, because I just didn't think, given that start, that I would be in a position where I'm 33 years old, publish 3 books, and have a PhD in creative writing. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing this desire, this journey with you, because I want to encourage and implore you to follow those dreams, chase those dreams, say yes to things, step outside your comfort zone sometimes. And that's what I like doing myself. I'm always stepping outside my comfort zone, trying new things. Making myself feel uncomfortable, making myself a bit silly when I'm not writing or teaching or being a young dad. I'm also a football referee of semi-professional football. I go around the east of England where I now live, sometimes the south of England, and I tell players off for misbehaving, yellow and red cards. Obviously, there's a big game today. Do you think England's going to win? Yeah, I think England's going to win. That was not underwhelming. To be fair, they've not played amazingly. I still think we'll win on penalties. Go on, Saka. So I am a football referee, a semi-professional football referee. I go around and I give yellow and red cards if they misbehave. And I was rubbish at it to begin. I remember doing my first game when I was 16 years old, and I was on Hackney Marshes, right? This quite famous Sunday League pitch in East London, and it had 88 pitches. and I was on pitch 88. It was the furthest away from the changing room. It took me half an hour to get from the changing room to the pitch. And I did my first game, adults, not talking kids here, adults. I was 16, and I was refereeing adults, and I absolutely hated it. I absolutely hated it. But I learned from that experience. I learned how to communicate. I learned how to, sort of flourish in those moments when my confidence is down and, I need to be my best self to try and manage the situation. I used to be a teacher, as Coco said in my bio. I like to run marathons. I'm not very good at running marathons. I'm quite slow, to be honest, but I've done 6 of them because I like trying things. I like stepping outside my comfort zone. I like saying yes to things, and it served me well so far. I forgot that picture was on there, actually. Bit of modelling. Oof, what's that? Bit saucy for 10. Why not? Why not give it a go? Why not try? I'm never going to do it again, but, why not? Oh, I've even done a bit of bus driving. I'm a qualified bus driver because my first book is set on a bus, so there I am when I passed. Very, very delighted with myself. Probably one of my biggest achievements, actually. I like trying new things, and yes, I'm going to flop. Yes, I'm going to fail sometimes. Yes, I'm going to be a bit rubbish, but unless I try, I won't know. Unless I try, I won't know. But despite the teaching and the football and the bus driving, there's one thing that I've always wanted to do. One thing that I've always wanted to do, and that is to be a novelist, to write a book. I've always wanted to go into a bookshop, Foyles, Waterstones, a really good independent bookshop, like there are so many in this country, and see a book with my name on it. It's been a dream of mine for a very, very long time. But writing a book is hard. It is a struggle. It's like doing 20 marathons. One of my favorite authors, George Orwell, I'm sure some of you have studied George Orwell's Animal Farm or 1984. He says this: writing a book is a horrible, exhausting struggle, like a long bout of some painful illness. Cheers, George. Cheers. There goes my dreams, right? But I've always wanted to do it. I remember I got into George Orwell when I was about 15. When I used to be obsessed by Big Brother, when it used to be on Channel 4 with Davina McCall, before many of people's time here. And I was so obsessed. I used to watch them sleep. It's this program where they sort of just like chat and argue and do tasks and wear silly clothes, etc. I was so obsessed by Big Brother, I used to watch them sleep. And then one day my mum said, this program that you're obsessed with, it's based on a book. And that's how I discovered 1984, and it became one of my favorite ever books. So yeah, anyway, I digressed. Writing a book is hard. But it's something that I've always wanted to do. And I remember when I was writing my first book, The 392, I started writing in 2014. I'd just become a teacher, a secondary school English teacher, and I started writing The 392. It was really hard because I just started a new job, and it was really hard to squeeze in the planning and the marking and a bit of writing as well. But that's what I did. I squeezed in the time. I wrote in evenings until the very early morning. I wrote on holiday even, as you can see there. I tried to do all I could to try and get the first draft of this first book done. And in the end, it took about 3 or 4 years, nearly 4 years before I got to this stage, which is the first draft stage of what is to become my debut novel. This was actually printed on the school, using the school photocopier system. I didn't tell them that, but it was always good. I actually missed that resource, the MRO room. It's really expensive to print now. So yes, that was my first draft, and it was rubbish. Oh my goodness, it was rubbish. Some people think my book now is rubbish, but it was properly rubbish then. There were typos, there were things that didn't make sense, there were threads that weren't really covered, my characters weren't fully fleshed out, but it didn't matter. I remember being so delighted that I got to this stage. After 4 years of writing it, but my whole lifetime of wanting to get to this stage at least, I had a first draft. When life's on track, put pen to paper and find your way back. And that's what journey looked like at first draft stage. But I needed to get it published. It was great having this paper version. It was great having this photocopy. It was, that was a really good start, but I wanted to see it in the bookshop, and they wouldn't accept it like this, obviously. I don't think anybody would buy it like that. I needed to get it published. So I approached, with the help of a literary agent, I approached a few publishing houses, companies that publish your book. Here's just a few examples. Granta, Tinder Press, Serpent's Tail. Rejected. No. After 4 years, over 4 years of writing my first book, which was called Journey at the time, rejection, rejection, rejection. In fact, I think I got about 8, 9, maybe 10 rejections. I stopped counting after a little while. I said to my agent, don't send me anymore because it's a bit demoralizing. But she had faith in me, had faith in my project, and I have to keep going because I think actually writing, a bit like life or any sort of creative endeavor, it's about perseverance and resilience and keeping going. And rejection is part of your life as a writer, I soon realized. James Baldwin, one of my favorite ever authors, rejected for Giovanni's Room, one of my favorite ever books. George Orwell, who I've mentioned already, 6 rejections for Animal Farm. J.K. Rowling, 12 rejections at least for Harry Potter. Some people say double that. Some people say triple that, but at least 12. James Joyce, another writer that I absolutely love. My grandmother was Irish, and I love Irish literature. And his first short story collection, Dubliners, was rejected at least 18 times. Rejection is part of the process as a writer, but sometimes it's part of the process in life or any academic or creative endeavor. It's just about how you carry on, how you persevere, how you stay resilient in the face of knockbacks. So lots of rejections, but then eventually I got this lovely message, and it wasn't formal, it wasn't via email or a letter or anything like that. It was just on my Instagram DM, slid in by a publisher. Wow. And it was great. This small publishing house. Now, obviously we're here on behalf of Penguin, big team, big team. I don't know, hundreds, thousands of workers and employees. This small publishing house from Hackney, East London originally, where the same borough that I'm from, just 2 people, husband and wife. Own It, they're called. And they said this: we've read and discussed your novel, blah, 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 blah. They wanted to take it on, and it was approved, it was accepted. And that proved to me that with that resilience and perseverance and keep going, keep writing, my dreams came true. And this sort of draws nicely into why I write. Why I write and what it does to me and the power it gives me. Because for me, writing is the painkiller for a headache-inducing, pain that I have in my head. It's early. Birds out singing. And sometimes writing just makes me feel, it just makes me feel so powerful, and it's like a therapy to me. It's just like a therapy. So I'm going to read a little bit about why I write from a little extract that's on YouTube. But just a bit of a flavor as to why it's so important to me. As the rest of the city sleeps, I'm up like the sun, about to board a bus. I love buses. To go to football an hour away somewhere. Getting on, lugging my kit bag over my shoulder, I feel the power of stories all around me. From the bus driver to the granny. My brain fizzes from passenger to passenger, trying to get on the inside, pick their brain, ascertain to what extent that we are all just the same. My pen and paper is often my phone and fingers. I love the immediacy of observing the world around me, noting down the action as it happens. I wrote most of my debut, the 392, on my phone on my way to work. From station to station, thinking and pausing, typing and deleting, trying to find 5 minutes of magic while stuck on the Thameslink, trying to capture some semblance of authenticity from the world being lived around me. A proper noun followed by another proper noun, Air Force Ones, KFC, and Kentish Town. Every little detail counts. Now, this morning, I find my seat and start a new journey to the big game. Not as a player, but the referee. When I get there, I will be a black man in the middle like the subject of my second novel. I feel a weight on my shoulder heavier than what's in my kit bag. With every word I write, I'm grappling with the burden of expectation from history, from society, from friends and family, how my work will be received on Goodreads and the wider industry, but I write to give back. I write because I am black, and there aren't enough of us in the places that I want to see. I write to give characters a voice who might not have heard in the books that we had to read, books that we were forced to study. Look, as much as I love Of Mice and Men, I don't want Crooks to be the first time a young black boy encounters a black character in a novel. I write so other writers, better ones than me, can see that there's real power in their story. I want to use my journey from an estate in Hackney to doing a creative writing PhD as inspiration for others in the margins to succeed. That's what I'm all about. You, your voice, your words. When life's off track, put pen to paper and find your way back. And the 392 was published in 2019. Film rights were sold, been on radio. There's the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, with a copy of the 392 there. So Journey became the 392, I should say. The title was changed. Akala, and look at that, the most important thing there at the bottom left there, bottom right, sorry. That dream of going into a bookshop and seeing a book with my name on it was achieved. And I'm just so grateful to get to that stage. All right, when I say one, you say two. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and backwards 10, 8, 6, 4, 2. Point to somebody you love. Ah, what a lovely group. What a lovely group. Fantastic. Sweet. No one pointed to me. Fair enough. That's the journey. The journey continues. I'm going to just read a tiny bit from the 392, just to give you a flavour of what it's about. And I wasn't going to do that, but someone from the team, the Pearson team, said they were reading it at the moment and they quite liked it. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to read a bit because I feel confidence is high, stepping outside my comfort zone, etc. Right. So the 392, and there's some helpful images. Oh, wrong page, wrong slide. There's some helpful images up there to give you a flavour of what's going on in this scene. Every chapter in this book is a different character on this bus. I love buses. Bloody hell, I love buses. I'm weird, aren't I? Right. Every chapter in this book is a different character on the bus. So you hear from the old, the young, the homeless, the home-owning, the bus driver, the local politicians on the bus. You hear from a real cross-section of society. And that was the reason why I wanted to write that, because I grew up in East London and I realised that East London was changing. And I wanted to know, where do I fit into this new East London? You know, I remember my mum going to the coffee shop once, and she ordered like a fancy, flavoured latte or something, right? And it cost her like £4. And she was like, what? This is my area, this is my ends, like what's going on? And that was kind of like the seed, the starting point for me writing this book about the 392, which is a made-up bus, because I love buses, right? So let me find my page quickly. So I'm going to read from the perspective of Boxer. Now, Boxer is a teenage boy, and he's got himself into a bit of a sticky situation. I'm not going to lie. He's got himself into a bit of a sticky situation. He fancies someone that he shouldn't, right? He fancies someone that he shouldn't, okay? Someone that he fancies is someone who's on the bus as well, It's the girlfriend of his older brother, all right? I know, it's a bit Hollyoaks, isn't it? It's a bit Hollyoaks. I forgot one more detail. Just to make matters a little bit worse, she's pregnant, okay? Yeah, I know. Boxer, behave yourself, lad. Right, anyway, he's on the bus. He's walking down the aisle. He's walking down the aisle of the bus because he wants to try and save the day, because he sees someone who looks a bit strange at the front and he thinks, I'm going to save the day, right? Anyway, he's walking down the bus. He sees Natalie. That's the girl, right? That's the girlfriend of his older brother. And he's like, do you know what? I'm going to chat to her for a bit. I sit down. And even though it's raining outside and there is a strange man at the front everyone seems to be focused on, my heart feels warm sitting next to her. And then I get thinking, she's got everything going for her looks-wise. She's 19 now, I think. There's just 3 years difference between us. It could work. We could have a future, nice walks in the park, maybe even a baby of our own together. It'll be a bit strange in the beginning, but it won't matter. We'll get used to it. This could be the beginning of something exciting, better than passing my GCSEs or pinging a free kick into top bins. I think this is what love feels like. Because I want to get away from gangs and my brother and moped muggings and walking stupidly in the dark like Conor McGregor with my arms swinging to look hard. The other day, must have been last Thursday or Friday, I thought I heard someone get shot in the ends again, so I ran. My heart was beating so fast. I swear every time I hear fireworks in the ends around this time of the year, I'm so shook in case it's someone with a gun. I don't want to live like this anymore. It's too stressful. I look at Natalie and then hold her hand because it feels right to. I want her to know that everything is going to be all right. Family matters, I tell her. And as I look around at the people on the bus, like the homeless man taking another fake picture, the useless-looking camera crew, the blind guy with the walking stick and the football top talking to the black guy in the smart suit and the shiny loafers with the tassels that I clocked earlier, and the old lady with her shopping trolley, I know that I can't live like this anymore. With all this stress in this city, on these roads, it's hard to make inroads. I think about how life could be. Natalie and me and the baby away from all this drama and crime and grime and trapping. I want to get away from Hackney and Islington and London, rent a little place outside of the city like Borehamwood or Watford where my boy Joseph lives maybe, one of them cottages with a nice garden. Get a job, get a dog, something small like Subway to start, or use my bike and work for Uber Eats or Deliveroo in the evening. I bet there's no moped crime in somewhere like Norwich. Or leave England altogether, go to Paris or Dubai or Abu Dhabi and live tax-free with a nice car and a nice house with a swimming pool. I'm 17 next May. We could get away from my brother and the man at the front today, because what if there really is something in his bag? What then? I feel Natalie looking at me. I've always kind of sensed there's been a connection between us. She's holding my hand, which is kind of shaking, and puts her fingers in between mine. They are smooth. I look at her, and we sort of have this moment. It's hard to explain. We both know it's wrong, and we shouldn't feel this way about each other. But right now, I don't care about anything else. I should tell her what's going down, what my brother is planning to do, but I can't do that either. I can feel the softness of her skin, and my heart is racing. And whatever happens, I'm not going to let either of them get hurt. Her or the baby. I can't. Okay, so there's a bit from the 392. So in the next chapter, we actually hear from Natalie, and we want to know, we don't know whether she feels this, obviously I know, but we don't know whether she feels the same about Boxer as Boxer feels about her. And the whole situation is messy. It's messy. Anyway, it was great fun to write because, as I said, I wasn't overthinking it. It's very voicey, it's very raw. And I was just writing about my area, the people that I saw, making up stories in my head, a bit like when I was sort of reading that other piece I told you about. When I'm on the bus or the train, I'm just listening. I'm such an eavesdropper. Sometimes I've got headphones on. I'm not listening to anything. I'm just listening to conversations. I just love doing that. That's what I implore you guys to do as well. Be nosy. Yeah. So 392, yeah, great. And you know what? I'll be honest. I just wanted my family to, well, not really my whole family, mostly my family. I wanted some of my family to buy that book and a few of my friends. I don't have many friends, but some of my friends. And I would have been gassed. I would have been happy. See it in the shop. A couple of friends buy it. My family buy it. I would have taken that all day long. But it did all right. It did okay. And it's still kind of selling all right as well. And it allowed me to continue this journey as a writer. So much so, I got accepted to do a PhD in creative writing to do my next book after this one. I did not think in a million years, talking about all the things that I talked about, growing up in Hackney, young mum, young black boy, etc., that I would be doing a PhD, or that I would have done a PhD in creative writing. I didn't even know that even existed, to be honest. But yes, it allowed me to begin and move. So I moved from London to Norwich, where I now live. Norwich is in the middle of nowhere. There isn't much there. It's nice, but unless you've got a reason to go there, perhaps you shouldn't go. Anyway, so I started my PhD, and I started to work on a new book. And it isn't about the fiery Irishman in the Man United kit, Roy Keane, who you sometimes see getting very angry on ITV and stuff. It is about this guy here, Uriah Rennie, hero of mine. Born in Jamaica in the 1950s, moved to England, Sheffield, in the 1970s, and in the 1990s became the first black football referee to referee in the Premier League. in 1997. And he retired in 2008. And it still took 15 years after his retirement to get another black referee. So this guy is a pioneer, he's a hero to me, and he's still alive. And so for my second book, I went up to Sheffield and I interviewed him a few times, only about 3 or 4 times, and I tried to draw out as much of his life as possible to write this weird, poetic fictionalization of his life. And the experience of writing about his life, when I was writing it, I was also drawing on my own experience, because as I said, that's important to me as a writer, and that's something that I want to reaffirm and share with you, the importance of your experiences, the things that you take pleasure from, the things that gives you joy, the things that are triggering and harrowing, or are the grief that you might have experienced. Bring that to the page. It has so much power. It can be really hard and triggering, I know, but it can also be super cathartic and super powerful. And writing about Uriah Rennie was really powerful, but I was drawing on my own experience about what it means to be a black man in these certain white spaces. I often travel across the country, and when I go to the grounds, they don't think I'm going to referee. They sort of go, no, this is the officials' room, mate. You need to go around the back. And I'm like, no, I am the referee. I'm the referee. And I brought that to the page, what it's like to go into certain grounds and spaces and get lots of abuse sometimes from players and coaches and any fans that are watching. These are some of the images of me refereeing down. When I had hair, I just realized that. My hair's very different than most of these. That was my first game. I talked about Hackney Marshes. I had hair, I was 16. Yeah, very, very young. He would listen to me then. No wonder it didn't go well. So I brought some refereeing in there. And I talked about perseverance and resilience and keeping going, right? I had the idea for my second book, Your Show, long before I had the idea for the bus book. Long before I had the idea for bus book. It says there that I tweeted in, what it's called now, posted on X, whatever, in 2011. But I actually had the idea before then. So it took many, many years to turn an idea about someone I wanted to know more about, a hero of mine, into something that will become my book, Your Show. Many, many years. And that, like I said, that's what sometimes life is about: perseverance, resilience, keeping going, having patience, putting up with the knockbacks. Again, this got rejected many times as well. I wouldn't put it up on the board again, but this got rejected many times before it found a publisher. And I hope that my book, in some small way, even if it's just 1%, I hope in some small way that my book has paved the way for other officials of colour. Because since it's released, Your Show was released in 2022. And in 2023, at the very, very end of 2023, sort of Boxing Day, we had our second black referee to referee in the Premier League, and his name was Sam Allison. And I hope that Your Show was just a small, small part of just showing the world that what happened before was not good enough. A game that is as beautiful and diverse and colourful as football is in this country. Players like Saka and Trent Alexander-Arnold and, Tony, who scored the penalty the other day. It's not good enough that there aren't enough black referees and coaches. Next season, you're going to see a lot more officials of colour in the Premier League, as you can see on the board. So I hope that Uriah Rennie continues to pave the way for others. Okay, going to very briefly move on to the latest book called Wild East, which is where the strapline comes from. When life's off track, put pen to paper, find your way back. I've talked about the power of lived experience and bringing emotion to the page, the emotive depth that you can bring to a work by digging deep. And that's what I did for the beginning of Wild East. Now, the beginning of Wild East is very much based on a true story of me losing a friend when I was a teenager. Back in 2007, I lost a friend called Naz, who we went to the same secondary school, we went to the same sixth form for a few months before his life was taken. Now, Naz was on a bus. I wasn't there at the time. Naz was on a bus and he was set upon by some boys at the very back of the bus. He wasn't doing anything wrong, but yeah, unfortunately, chaos ensued and his life was taken. Justice was served. Gomelu, who was the perpetrator, served a lengthy time in prison, and I think he's still in there as well. So justice was served in some way. But it was still very, very hard. And my way of dealing with what happened to Naz was by writing about it. And yeah, it's hard. It took time. It took pouring my heart out onto the page. But I feel so much better for it, because now, actually, when I read the prologue, I just think of Naz and it makes me feel happy and I smile. It was hard when I was writing it, I'm not going to lie. But now every time I read it from the prologue, I just feel like he's here and I feel happy, generally. And that's the power of writing. That's the power of bringing emotion to the page sometimes. It's definitely going to be hard and triggering and emotional. But for me, it's been cathartic, and it's immortalized a good friend of mine. I'm going to read the beginning of Wild East to give you a flavor of what it is, what's about. And R.I.P. Naz for sure. Ronnie is the main character. Ronnie is 14 years old. There is a depiction of him on the board there. And he's on the top deck of a bus. And he's with Naz has been changed. His name has been changed to Maz in this book. And he's with Maz, and he's on the top deck of a London bus, the 43. And at the very back of the bus, there are some boys starting trouble. And Ronnie and Maz don't really know what to do about it. A glance as sharp as a broken shard of glass. His dark eyes slicing souls open with crystal clear precision. On the top deck of this 43 bus, we've become targets locked in his vision. "What are you looking at?" he says. His words are all jagged and pointy, loaded like a strap and hanging heavy, weighty enough for every other passenger to hear. We didn't know that we were looking at him. Not really. Maz and I. No more than a little peep if we were. We certainly didn't mean to cause offense. We've just been chilling, in all honesty, like chatting and joking around, doing stupid impressions of our teachers and stuff. But this guy sat at the very back is getting all riled up. "Oi, did you not hear me?" he says, louder than before. His voice is all strained and spiky. "What are you looking at?" He seems to be addressing me now only. He sat with this other guy, quieter but looks just as menacing. They're both like 16, 17, 18 at a stretch maybe, and either way, they're just a few years older than us, but unlike Maz and me, they're not in school uniform. I think they've got it twisted, because I know that I've never seen either of them before. You see, where I come from, you remember every spot, scratch, or scar of someone's face. So this must be a case of mistaken identity. It has to be. The two of them sit sprawled across the 5 seats at the back, and we're sat half turned to the Mazes on one side of the aisle, me on the other, just a few rows in front on the top deck of this double-decker bus. The current scene of this unprovoked, but not totally unexpected verbal attack. You see, when you live in London, you can't ever let your guard down just like that. Me and Maz, best friends since year 7. Same form, class, school, football team. We always got this bus together home, took it basically every day from our school in Archway, past Holloway and Highbury, along City Road, through Islington and into Hackney. See, Maz is mad good at art. He wants to do it next year for GCSE. He's a guaranteed grade 9, easily one of the best in the year, maybe even the whole school. He's good at doing realistic portraits of people and landscapes of the city. But this picture here is not looking pretty. In seconds, the mood has shifted. This guy is serious, and now the blood's proper thumping under my skin, as painful as punches to the ribs. He's angrily pointing his fingers at me, and his fury is hard to ignore. We're definitely looking at him now, even if we weren't looking at him before. "Nothing to say, yeah?" he says, again, just speaking to me specifically. "Not a big man anymore, yeah?" he adds as he rises from his seat now, aggressively. We can't take this, can we? Maz has had enough and starts to speak up. Taking matters into his own hands on my behalf. He calls him names in reply, names that this guy deserves undoubtedly, but still feels kind of strange to hear at like 4 p.m. on a Wednesday in May. But I suppose he's got the right idea. We can't look weak, made to look a joke by this joker talking silly in front of all of these people, just like 10 minutes or so from where we grew up. The other passengers seem to ignore what's going on completely, or what might be just about to happen. They only half look, they only half care. This disagreement, a minor inconvenience they can forget about in 5 or 10 minutes because some of them saw Stormzy the other summer headline Glastonbury. So instead of getting involved, defend or protect, they scroll through ASOS for their what to wear for their work summer barbecue. They don't care, not really. To them, this is the youth of today. This is what they do. Through anger is how they communicate. Blame the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. Blame drill music. Blame bad parenting. Come, Ron, I can't do this. Let's go. Suggests Maz sensibly, as he gets up and heads towards the stairs of the bus quickly, ready to get off before all hell breaks loose, before this all gets out of hand. The passengers, they breathe a sigh of relief, can get on with the rest of their day, and maybe, just maybe, this is the end of it. This drama to them, like a scene from Top Boy or Netflix, something they can just watch a bit, then press the off switch. But as we stomp down the stairs, Maz is spouting parting shots. I'm staying quiet, scampering behind him, trying to keep up. Without even looking, I can hear footsteps follow us off. We're now walking back towards Islington Green, and even Maz seems keen to just get away. But this guy is not giving me the space. His finger is jabbing my temple, and I'm too shook to react. I'm too scared to respond. My heart is in my throat. The heat is on my face. These guys are now moving mad. The main one in particular, his legs and arms are all frenetic. In our rush to escape, we barge past this posh couple, who at first act outraged, but then they see what's going on and say nothing. She's brunette and wearing Birkenstocks. He's got khaki shorts and camo-coloured Crocs. I can see the tightness of his knuckle as he grips her hand and tries to lead her away from the commotion. I clock his watch. It could be a Rollie or an AP Audemars, and he's brave for wearing one of those around these parts, but at this moment, he's not the one in danger. We are. Because the guy from the bus is now bobbing about like a boxer. But it's not his fists that he's threatening us with. No. There's too much fury involved now. He's in too deep to back out and seems to want to match words with actual action. There's something shapely in this boy's tracksuit. Recognizable from playground stories or music videos on YouTube. The sunlight is gleaming off his shiny forehead. Droplets of his sweat spread and start to drip as this scuffle spills from the pavement onto the streets. And Maz is shouting back now. He's not letting it go. It's not what he knows. But when this guy's hand dips, I duck. Me and Maz, best friends since year 7, same form class school football team. But he's in real trouble here because now it's 2 against 1. I've gone. I'm fleeing the scene at speed, and as I glance back, I see the glimmer of a knife edge, the stainless steel shine of a black-handled 7-inch. Maz, weaponless, of course. His only defense are his desperate pleas is flawed. The liquid pours. His blood, my tears. Thank you very much. So, like I said, I know it can be possibly quite a harrowing or triggering read, but I just think of Nas when I read it, and I think of it quite positively now. I feel like his spirit is in the room, which makes me feel better. Wild East started a couple of years ago. I started writing it when I was working with teenagers for this creative writing residential in 2021, and that was where the seed of the idea came from. And I've talked a lot about perseverance and resilience, and it takes years, it takes time. It took many years to make sense of what happened to Nas, and it took years after that to start putting it on the page. Okay. So the story of Wild East, I'm not going to, very briefly, because I know we're running out of time, but very briefly, he then moves to Norwich. The first chapter is the only chapter set in London. He moves to somewhere which he thinks should be safer, but it's perhaps not as seamless or harmonious as he expects it to be. I won't have time to read the second extract right now, but he meets Maliki, and Maliki is a boy in East Anglia in Norwich who takes him under his wing, but doesn't have the best intentions. And in this moment, Ronnie is sort of sucked into a world of county lines that he doesn't really want to be a part of. He wants to chase his dreams of being a writer and a musician, but he finds himself drawn into this world. And it's something that I wanted to talk about because I've lived in Norwich, this small city, as I talked about, for 6 years. And people think it's peaceful and lovely and harmonious, and it is. It's a wonderful city. But there's still an undercurrent, and there's still temptation for teenagers. And I wanted to write about that head on in Wild East. So, it has been quite a journey. I didn't think in a million years that I would have 1 degree, never mind 4 degrees. My mum's hair's changed quite a lot, hasn't it? Quite a lot, yeah. Her mum's hair's changed quite a lot. But yes, and I owe it all down to writing. Writing about experiences. I put it down to eavesdropping on conversations, listening, as I said with that Why I Write piece, right? I was on the bus or the train, just taking notes, listening. And that's what I implore you and encourage you guys to do. Keep listening, keep writing. The good things, the bad things. Your words, your stories, your anecdotes, your experiences have real power. They're different to mine. It might not be as dramatic as mine. It might not be, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's still special. It's still unique. And I want to hear it. In fact, hopefully I will hear some of it later on. So, has been quite a journey indeed. Thank you so much for listening. When I say 1, you're going to say 2. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and backwards. 10, 8, 6, 4, 4, 4, 4. I'm joking. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.